Welcome to Alive and Well, the podcast for the new era of high achievers. You're done burning out, and you're ready to lead, work, and live in a rhythm that honors both your brilliance and your body. I'm your host, Michelle Grosser. I'm a trial attorney turned nervous system strategist, and I've lived the burnout story. I know what it's like to chase your goals at the expense of your well-being. And I also know it doesn't have to be that way. Here, we're redefining success. It's where productivity feels peaceful, boundaries feel like freedom, and energy comes from within. Each week, I'll share practical tools for nervous system regulation, time mastery, and somatic strategies so you can show up with clarity, calm, and confidence in every part of your life. Because you, my friend, were given a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. So here's to life and living it fully. This is the path to feeling alive and well. Let's dive in. What's up, you guys? It's Michelle here. Welcome to the show. Today, we're going to talk about something that, as I just reflect on the podcast, the content we're putting out, the programs that I teach, I'm realizing that this is really the cornerstone of all of it. And it is our capacity, specifically how we can expand it. So I kind of want to start with talking about what our capacity isn't, because I think most people who come to me for nervous system work, they really are coming to me because they want to feel calmer, right? They want to feel less anxious, less reactive, and they associate regulation with kind of like this zen, right? Feeling calm all the time, and I'm just unruffled, and I've got candles going and slow mornings and deep breaths. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a slow morning, but that's not actually what being regulated in our nervous system is or means, right? Regulation doesn't always mean that we're calm all the time. Regulation is actually more about our capacity. And there's such a meaningful difference here. This is not just semantics. So I've been paying attention to what you guys are responding to, and capacity expansion keeps coming up. So we're going to do a lot more content around it in the coming months. You've spoken. I'm here for it. And I actually talked about expanding capacity because it's one of my own personal focuses for the year of 2026. So back on the first episode of this year, episode 424, if you guys want to go back, I think it's worth a listen. And I talk about why I'm focusing on expanding my capacity this year and how I'm doing it. And I think that would be helpful if this is something that's interesting to you. Okay, so let's talk about what we're actually expanding here. So here's how I define capacity. When I talk about capacity, I'm talking about your ability to stay present, your ability to stay in the moment, engaged, grounded, present with the people around you and with yourself, regardless of what life is throwing at you. So maybe it's, you're feeling a lot of pressure. Maybe there's something uncomfortable and you're feeling some sort of conflict coming up. Maybe it's uncertainty, right? Maybe there's things happening or changing, and there's a lot of uncertainty about the future or the outcome or someone's response. And you want to be able to stay regulated and stay present through that, right? Maybe it's being seen. Maybe you're being asked to, speak somewhere or share something or lead something, and that's terrifying to you. Maybe it's success. Maybe it's things that you want or need or desire. All of it, we want to have the ability to stay present. So it's not so much that it's the absence of stress, right? There are things, sure, that we can reduce as stressors, right? There are probably some things that we can delegate and eliminate, but we're not going to be able to get rid of all the stress in our life. There's no way. So when I talk about expanding our capacity, I'm talking about how do we expand your ability to handle stress in a healthy way without your body treating every little thing like it's a 5-alarm emergency. And I think the most underappreciated part of all of this is that capacity isn't even just about stress. It's not just like, I want to be able to handle the stressful things of life without it sending me into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn every time. I'm talking about can we expand our capacity for joy? Can we expand our capacity for focus? Can we expand our capacity for relationships? Can we expand our capacity for patience, for pleasure, for love, for success? Because so many women that come to me, women that I tend to attract, women that I work with, they aren't just dysregulated around the hard things, right? Sometimes it can be those things. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's, a child that can be really activating and triggering. Maybe it's something with work, it's overwhelmed, what have you. But so often I see that we're also dysregulated around the quote unquote good things, right? Maybe it's a big opportunity that's coming up that you don't know if you have the capacity to hold, and that's causing worry or anxiety or just this general sense of unease. Maybe it's, the moment that things start going well, right? Wow, things are going well. This thing is growing, right? Or this is working, or I really like where my job's at, or, my relationship, my marriage has felt really good lately. And then almost on cue, like that anxiety starts to show up, right? And we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe it's the inability to actually enjoy the things that you've worked so hard for. That's a capacity issue too. So being a high capacity woman, that's the goal, you guys. It's to be adaptable, flexible, able to hold this full life without constantly feeling like you're about to break under the weight of it. So regulated in that truest sense, window of tolerance wide enough to experience the full range of life without constantly being thrown into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. That's what we're building here. Okay, so let's kind of walk through. I called it 5 steps. There's a lot more to it than this, but I think this is a great starting point for someone who wants to expand their nervous system capacity. Step 1, shocker, is awareness. Awareness, right? I always say that we cannot intervene in a world that we can't see. Awareness precedes choice. We can't expand what we're not even aware of. So think of your current capacity as a container. Maybe think of it like a literal container, a to-go container, or a bowl, or a bathtub, like any kind of container, but it has a threshold, right? There's a point beyond which you tip out of regulation and into a stress response, right? There is a point where that bathtub is so full that it's just going to start spilling and flooding your house. When you catch it early, let's say when it's 20% full or at 20% intensity, you have options, right? You can still redirect and regulate and stay present. But when we get 90, 95%, 98% full, you're already in it. Because when your nervous system's fully activated, your prefrontal cortex, that's responsible for your logic and your decision making and your self-regulation. So much of that goes offline when we're already almost at capacity, right? When we're at the edges of what our nervous system can handle. We start running on survival brain. Survival brain does not care about your breathwork practice. So there are 2 directions that we can tip, and most people, I think, lean toward one. So the first is hyperarousal, fight or flight, right? We talk about this a lot. Too much activation. You're running around, rushing everywhere. You're irritable, snappy at people, mostly the ones that we love the most. Your jaw's clenched. You have racing thoughts. You're not sleeping well. You kind of have that wired but tired feeling. Hyperarousal. The second is hypoarousal. That's a freeze response. That's when your system is too much, tapping out. And that can look like fogginess, right? Brain fog all day long, numbness, flatness, just not caring about things that you would normally care about or things that used to excite you, procrastinating, withdrawing, feeling stuck behind, just this feeling that it's really hard to gain momentum and to make progress. Neither one of those is a character flaw, right? Both of them are just your nervous system trying to protect you. Both of them signal that you've crossed a threshold and you're operating beyond your current capacity. So, I think that's a good starting point. Maybe get curious this week. Which direction do you tend to tip? And what are your earliest cues before you get fully activated? So maybe it's that you start clenching your jaw, or you notice tension in your shoulders, or maybe the tone of your voice changes, or maybe you notice an urge to, just check your phone and you're scrolling and zoning out. Just start noticing, because that noticing is really the launch pad, right? It's the first step to you being able to do anything about it. And then the second step I would take if I wanted to expand my capacity is that you have this awareness now, right? You're catching it early. You're getting close to the point where you're beyond your capacity. You're starting to notice. And most people immediately try to fix it. So they grab maybe a regulation tool that they've heard on the podcast or they've seen on Instagram or something, or they think their way out of it, or they want to push that feeling down and suppress it and power through. But I would encourage you to try something different first, and that is naming it. Affect labeling, that's the clinical term, basically for giving your emotional or physiological state a name. And it actually reduces activity in our amygdala, which is our brain's threat detection center, right? So that little alarm that goes off in our brain if it detects anything that might be a threat to us. So when you name what you're experiencing, what happens is that you actually create a gap, right? The space grows between the stimulus and your response. And in that gap, that is where regulation lives. So what might this sound like? It might sound like, okay, I'm noticing I'm starting to feel really frustrated right now, or I'm feeling really overwhelmed this morning, saying it, right? This is outside of my control. I've prepared as much as I can. Now I have to go do the dang thing and trust the outcome, right? Or maybe it's like, okay, I'm noticing that I'm having this thought that's just kind of coming up and it's starting to loop and I'm kind of ruminating on it. I actually don't have to take this thought at face value. And you're not suppressing, you're not bypassing, you're actually signaling to your brain that there's a different path available, right? That full activation, we don't have to go like full Hulk mode. That's not required here. And the more that you actually practice this, right? It's a muscle. The more you flex it, the more you work it, you're actually literally building new neural pathways, new default routes for your nervous system to travel. So notice when you're starting to max out your capacity, name it instead of trying to fix it right away. And then try a tool to help bring you back into the present, right? You guys have heard me talk about this. You don't need 30 regulation tools. You need one. You need one that you've practiced enough that it lives in your body and not just in your head. So when you're starting to get activated or anxious or frustrated or scared or annoyed or what have you, and you're like 60% activated, let's say, and your prefrontal cortex is starting to go offline, you don't have to think. Your body already knows. So I have given so many options throughout all the different episodes of this podcast. You guys probably already have some that work for you. You've tried, played around with different things like shaking, right? The physiological sigh, orienting yourself to your environment, grounding through your feet. Maybe it's tapping. Maybe it's just rocking or swaying. Maybe it's going and putting, a bag of frozen peas on the back of your neck, or putting some cold water on your face, or holding some ice cubes, or, box breathing, extended exhale breathing, like all of those things. Any of these, if you practice them consistently, can really help and become kind of like an anchor for you. Okay. Identifying your specific tool, understanding why it works for your nervous system, and actually building it in as an automatic response. And it takes depth. And I think it can also it can be helpful to have guidance through this. And that actually brings me to something that I've been wanting to share with you guys. I've been working so hard on this behind the scenes. I'm so excited about it, but I've been building a brand new program for you. And it's called the Capacity Method. And it's built entirely around helping you expand your nervous system capacity. And we do it sequenced very strategically with structure and tools and the kind of integration that actually creates lasting change. So I'm still putting the final details on it, putting it all together. I've been recording different stuff for that program and getting it all ready. But if you're curious about expanding your capacity, if you're curious about the capacity method, if you're ready maybe to stop just managing your stress and actually start expanding what you can hold, I want you to be first to know when the program launches. It's going to be later this spring, but I created a wait list. There's a link for it in the show notes. Just go ahead and click on it. There's no commitment. You just give me your name and your email. And that way, as we get closer to the first launch of the capacity method, you'll be on the list to make sure that you hear all about it, that you get the dates and all the details, access to exclusive bonuses and savings just for the waitlist. So if you're curious about expanding your capacity, go ahead and click on that link in the show notes and jump on the waitlist for the capacity method. More information coming soon. All right, so that's the first thing. That's the third thing. The fourth is pendulation. And we haven't talked about this a lot on the podcast, but we're going to talk about it more because capacity. Okay. This is a practice that actually helps you expand your container. So I was kind of talking about the bathtub, right, as a container, and it's filling and it's filling and it's filling. And there's a point where you can tell, oh, it's almost near the top, right? It's going to overflow. And then you can do something about it. You can unplug the drain. You can turn off the faucet for the bathtub in our metaphor. But you also have a third option when it comes not to an actual bathtub, but to your body, your nervous system. And we can actually expand the container. We can create a bigger bathtub, if you will, right? So everything so far that we've been talking about is working within your current capacity. But this next one, pendulating, it's actually about expanding it. Okay, so pendulation, this idea comes from somatic experiencing. And the idea is pretty simple, but the work itself, I think, is quite profound. Your nervous system can actually learn to tolerate more discomfort, more stress, if you practice moving toward it and then away from it, right? Think about a pendulum, side to side, toward discomfort and then away from it. In these kind of small, controlled doses. It's just like building a muscle, you guys. You don't build strength by maxing out every session, right? You progressively load and then you rest. That's growing capacity. Capacity grows in that recovery. Pendulation works in the same way. So this is how you do it. You move your attention towards something that's just like mildly activating, not something super traumatic, not something that you're like trying to avoid or don't want to think about, or something that was really awful or scary. Nothing like that. Mildly activating. Maybe a time you made a joke that didn't land. Maybe when someone misunderstood something that you said and it caused conflict. Maybe, mildly activating. And then you experience that for a little bit, and then you pendulate back to feeling something that's either neutral or even something that is pleasant, right? Toward the difficulty, back to safety, like a pendulum. And over time, what happens is that your window of tolerance expands. Your nervous system learns that it can visit something that's uncomfortable without getting stuck there. That's regulation, right? Discomfort isn't always dangerous. That's the mechanism by which real capacity grows. So if you want to try this, give it a shot. I think this is awesome to practice once a day, even for just a few minutes. Like you could even do this at a red light. I'm talking about like a 3-minute practice. You can do it in the morning. You could do it in the evening. You could do it while you're having lunch. Make it work for you. But you're just going to sit down, think of something mildly stressful, right? Like a 4 out of 10 activation, let's say. Something that just creates this like subtle feeling inside of you. Maybe it's a conversation you've been putting off. Maybe it's a task you've been avoiding. Maybe it's some uncertainty that you've been carrying. Just bring it to mind. And then notice where you feel it in your body. Maybe you're even doing this with me live right now as you're listening, right? Bring the thing to mind and just notice what you notice in your body. As I'm thinking about things myself, I'm already starting to feel it in my chest, right? I feel a tightness and kind of like a heaviness in my chest right now. And maybe you do too. Or maybe it's a heaviness or a pit in your stomach. Maybe it's a constriction in your throat. Maybe you're noticing that your jaw or your shoulders are clenching, or maybe it's even like tears are coming to your eyes, right? Just notice it, locate it, and observe it. Can you stay with that for 20 to 30 seconds with that uncomfortable feeling? Maybe pause the podcast and see if you can just sit with that for 20 seconds. Not fixing it. You're just practicing being with it. Okay. and then come back. All right. And then what you want to do after you've sat with it for 20, 30 seconds, you want to gently shift your attention to something neutral or even something that's pleasant to your body. So you might even just shift your awareness right now to what's supporting your body, right? If you're standing, noticing your feet on the floor. If you're sitting, noticing your body in your seat, right? Can you notice the temperature of the air on your skin? Can you notice a taste of anything? Maybe the last thing you ate or drank. And can you just stay there with that for 20 to 40 seconds? Again, if you're doing this live with me, you can pause, you can come back. But that's the practice, right? Noticing something uncomfortable, bringing it to mind, slight discomfort, slight activation. Can you stay with it for 20 to 30 seconds? And then after that, can you shift your attention to something that's just neutral or even something that's pleasant? Back and forth, right? Do a few rounds of that towards the stressor, back to safety, towards the stressor, back to safety. And then you're done. And it's small, it's deliberate. But when you do it consistently, this is one of the most powerful ways to expand your capacity at a physiological level. You're literally training your nervous system to move flexibly between being activated and then feeling, coming back to baseline and feeling regulated. Activated because you want to be flexible. That's the goal, you guys. That's capacity. Okay, so that's pendulation. The fourth thing. The fifth step, the last thing I want to talk about today, is how do we expand our edge? So once you start to do some of this work and your baseline starts to rise, right? Maybe it's like every little thing used to set you off, right? Literally a glass of spilled milk would send you beyond your capacity because your capacity was zip. As that starts to grow and your baseline to handle life, stress, whatever, starts to rise, this is where you can really do good expansion work. This is where you can actually voluntarily choose discomfort that is safe, the kind of discomfort that helps you grow, the discomfort that serves you, right? Capacity grows at the edge. We all know the saying, right? Nothing grows in your comfort zone. Not in the overwhelm zone, but capacity grows when you're able to stretch like just beyond what's comfortable. Where you're extended, you feel the discomfort, right? You feel the stretch, but it's not so much that you shut down or feel overwhelmed or snap. And this really looks different for everyone. So, maybe this expansion maybe it's having the uncomfortable conversation you've been putting off. Maybe it's, 10 minutes of sitting in stillness with no phone and no input and just being with yourself. For a lot of people, I would venture to guess most of us, that is expanding an edge. Maybe it's delegating something that you've been kind of gripping for far too long because you don't trust anyone else to do it how you're going to do it. Or maybe it's letting yourself really enjoy something and being present in the moment with it instead of waiting for someone to mess it up or for it to fall apart or what have you. Whatever your nervous system's been treating as slightly too much, you guys, that's your edge. And every time you move toward it with intention and you can stay with yourself through it, your capacity grows. And it's what becoming a high capacity individual actually looks like. It's not blindly just pushing past our limits. It's not white knuckling through. It's being deliberate and being consistent and expanding what our system can hold. Okay, this stuff fires me up. There's so much more to this conversation. Rest, the way in which we rest, that has a huge impact on our capacity. Emotional regulation, huge impact on our capacity. Relational capacity, identity work. We're going to keep going on all of it. Capacity expansion is where the show is headed. I'm so excited for what's coming. If you want to know more, right? If you're curious, you want to go deeper on this with real structure and support, and you're curious about the capacity method as I'm building it, go ahead and just jump on the waitlist. The link is in the show notes. If you're on the waitlist, you're just going to hear about everything first, and you'll have access to exclusive discounts and bonuses. And if this episode landed for you, if there was something in here that was helpful, I would love it if you would share the episode. Maybe just send it to a woman in your life who's holding it all together, but she could use some additional support and tools and resources so that it doesn't all feel so much, right? So heavy and so overwhelming. Maybe she needs this episode. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for just being a part of what we're building here. I'm grateful for every single one of you. I love y'all so much. I'll talk to you guys soon.
If you love Mommy's podcast, leave a review.
Thanks for listening to Alive and Well. If today's episode resonated, would you do me a favor? Take 30 seconds and leave a 5-star rating and short review. It really helps to get this show out to other people just like you who could also use the information in this podcast. And if you're ready to take the next step in regulating your nervous system, download my free Nervous System Reset Guide. It's linked right in the show notes. Inside, you'll find simple, body-based practices to help you feel more clear, calm, and connected starting today. Make sure you're following the show so you don't miss out on what's coming next, because you were made to thrive. Fully alive, fully present, and fully well. I'll see you soon.